Welcome to the Bayonet's Countdown to November, a series of interviews with the candidates in the November 4th election. I'm Dick Myers, and with me for this segment is Mike Hewitt, Republican candidate for St. Mary's County Commissioner for the 2nd Commissioner District. This is a district that doesn't have an incumbent. The current commissioner decided not to run. So it's you in a general election against Bob Schaller, who's the Democrat. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Mike, your background and experience. You have extensive experience in working with boards and commissions with St. Mary's County.
Well, I think my most thing I'd like to point out is I've been a resident of this county for 51 years, Dick.
You must be 51.
No, I'm not 51. I grew up here. I moved here as a young child with my
I see.
dad in the Navy.
Okay.
And we were Navy people, and it was 1963.
Okay.
And my dad thought this was a wonderful area to live, and when he got out in 1964, he opened a business. He opened a business up in Bushwood. It was called Denby Hill Chevron. And it was a great start for us. Remember, I was 11 years old, and I was working in the business with him as young kids did back in that day.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to say I've been running the business now. My dad passed away suddenly in 1981. And I've been running the business actually since 1979, so I've owned it and run it since for the past 35 years. Now I have been on the St. Mary's County Planning Commission, the St. Mary's County Board of Education, and the Zoning Board of Appeals. I'm currently on the Board of Directors for the Patuxent River Naval Air Museum. I'm a member and past president, trustee of the St. Mary's County Elks Lodge. I'm involved in my community.
So why do you want to become a county commissioner?
Let me just say, times are getting more and more challenging. There's a lot of pressure to increase revenue, increase taxes. And what I can see from my employees, from my customers, from people in general, is there's a lot of stress over the high cost of living in St. Mary's County and in Maryland. Taxes are very high. What we're finding is, or what I'm hearing on the campaign trail, is Maryland is a very, very expensive place to live. And many people are leaving when they're able to get retirement. And we need to keep those people here. Secondly, I think Washington is taking us in the wrong direction, and that's what I hear on the campaign trail too. Now there's a thing called the Watershed Implementation Program. Very expensive project. And it's going to have a big impact on St. Mary's County. It's going to force us to deal with potentially a rain tax. It's going to bring more and more regulation and higher expenses. Now out of Annapolis, we're seeing that they're moving the teachers' pensions to the counties, and that's going to be a big, big expense to the counties. So what I want to avoid, or I'm trying to help with, is having to raise taxes. I resist all tax increases and all new fees. Now I think the county can be run more efficiently. We saw recently they published their audited budget for 2013. They had a fund balance of $95.8 million. That's a lot of money, Dick. And when you start hearing about fund balances that are available to be used for either tax relief or some kind of a way to give back to the community, it's down to 23 million or 8 million. We need a more transparent way of looking at government. So the reason I'm running is I think I'm qualified for the job. I'm at a point in my life where my business is doing well and I have good managers. And I'm also at a point where I think I can be a help. And I think I can help reduce the cost of living in Southern Maryland.
So if you had been a county commissioner during this most recent budget cycle, would you have voted to reduce taxes to use some of that surplus for that?
Yes, I would. But I think I have another way of looking at how to reduce taxes. The two that I'm really interested in reducing are the energy tax, which I'd like to eliminate. I sell propane at my business, and I find a lot of people in the dead of winter coming continuously back to me to get their propane tank filled to heat their homes. And the issue is they're low income, I don't want to say poor people, they're good people. But the point is they have poorly insulated homes. Mm-hmm. And the poor and the elderly are more impacted by the energy tax than probably people who are working every day and have good jobs. Now, the other group I'd like to target is the people 65 and older. I'd like to be able to freeze their property taxes at 65. Now, that's a hit of about $2 million to $2.5 million on the county's income stream. But there's several things going on in the county. The OPEB, which is the retirement benefits. The county has it overfunded by $20,500,000. The sheriff's OPEB's overfunded by $3.5 million. That's a lot of money. That's part of this $95 million surplus. So we could take the money that generates. It's right now producing about a 7.75% return. That return could be used to cut those taxes. And we would never influence our retirement. We would never jeopardize any of that. We could just be more efficient with the money we have, Dick.
There's been a big push recently in county government regarding economic development, I guess out of fear of the future of the Patuxent River Naval Air Station. Are you concerned about that future as well?
Absolutely. I think we've been trying to look for alternatives to the Navy base for 50, 60, 70 years, as long as it's been here. Farming is no longer a viable way to make a living. I like farming. I like people who do that. I hope they can make a living, but I'm hearing it's getting harder and harder. Watermen have the same issues. The bounty is low. It's hard to make a living on the water. So when we look at alternatives, I'm encouraged by the recent UAV group that wants to move into the county airport. That's a good move. More things like that are symbiotic with what we do in the base would be a good move.
Do you think that more could be done to protect the base?
Oh, absolutely. I think there's a good program involved with called the compatibility study, which recently we saw Shannon Farms down below the base. It was purchased with Navy money, was purchased with state money, and a little bit of county money. And that was a good deal. So I definitely see there's programs out there to protect the base, but we can do more.
There's a lot of controversy, maybe as a small businessman you could log in on this, about the enhanced use lease where they would, the Navy would do more commercial development, allow more commercial development on base by private contractors. Are you in favor of that or not?
Yes, I'm in favor of the EUL. And the reason I'm in favor of it is the Navy is going in that direction. For us to resist it puts us in a precarious position moving forward. So if that's what they want to do, we have to incorporate it, we have to embrace it, and we have to deal with it. And by that I mean there's going to be people on the outside of the base who have those large buildings. But let's assume that if the community and the economy can grow, then all these things can work together.
You've been on the school board side. Every year there seems to be a crisis at budget time.
Yes.
It just seems to go on. I've been here a long time, and you have too, and you've seen it. This year was an especially hard crisis
Yes.
because of the problems with the school board budget itself. Is there any way that this crisis mentality can be eliminated or softened so that there's more of an easy transition from year to year?
Yes, I like to think there could be. Now, education is a #1 priority of any community. And what I don't like is being 24th out of 24. I don't understand it. And I want to say, as I was on the Board of Education, I will figure out why we're at 24 out of 24. I'm told it's because of the wealth of the county. But I'll also say the Navy does skew the actual wealth of individuals. People on that base are making great wages, and thank God. But people off the base, teachers, deputy sheriffs, people working at Hewitt Service Center, aren't making $82,000 to $85,000 a year. There must be a model we can follow that allows us to look at the dichotomy between what they make on the federal installation and what the people outside make, and come up with a more reasonable funding plan for education.
Now, the teachers and the other employees will say that they're bearing the burden of this problem, and there was an original proposal to give the teachers a salary increase, and then with the school board budget crisis, that was cut out. Would you work towards trying to at least restore some of that those extra funds to give to teachers?
The education issue, and having 4 years experience, I was 2 years as chair, is a very complicated issue. Teaching someone's children is a very emotional, it's very heartfelt by the people who are there, and it's deeply personal. So what I would say to you is we need to make sure we're concentrating on the core academics. Not every program is needed. We need to see who we're reaching, and maybe we need to curtail program. I'm not saying that's what we have to do, but I'm saying there's so many dollars available. We need to make sure we adequately pay our teachers and work towards benefits, and they need raises. They're definitely taking the worst end of this recent budget crisis. We hear administrators are going to get their step increases, and they're going to be generous. What we're hearing is teachers are going to pay more for prescriptions, and their salary is going to be flat. Mm-hmm. We need to find a way to make it more equitable for the teachers.
As a small business person, you had mentioned earlier about the state's attitude, but how about the county? Are we business friendly? Is it easy or hard to get things through county government for people that are trying to start a business and people that are trying to expand a business?
Well, let me say, I think the county tries very hard to expand business and encourage a business. I do think that happens. But I'll say I think the permitting process can be a lot easier. I've heard from many people on the campaign trail that the permitting process is too long. What the people in Leonardtown need to understand is time is money. And when people are trying to work on a project and they're trying to get something approved, they continually have to come up with additional funds to pay for it, whether it be interest cost or infrastructure costs, whatever it may be. And the county is too slow, in my opinion, granting them approvals.
Mm-hmm. There have been two major decisions during the current Board of Commissioners that have been controversial. One was the decision to not expand the jail. The other was the decision not to build a new library. If you had been county commissioner, how would you have voted on those?
Well, let me say, first off, is those are tough decisions. But I think for a community to grow, if infrastructure has to grow. And I think a jail is part of infrastructure, as is a library. Now, libraries, in my opinion, they talk to the character of a community. And libraries provide somewhere for the poor, the elderly, people who don't have the financial resources to be able to get online, use a computer, or actually have access to information, whether it be state, federal, county. And it provides that for those people. So I would say to you, if I were to look at a library in Leonardtown, I think what they're doing is going to be too small. I've had the opportunity to visit the library, speak with the library board. They're telling me that their usage is very, very high, and that the existing library is too small. So I have to say it seems short-sighted to build something that's too small, or to renovate something that's too small. But on the other hand, if a lot of money's been spent on that project, a lot of design dollars. So if we were to look at another library, and I think Leonardtown needs a new library. Lexington Park has a new library. Leonardtown needs a new library. But it should fit the number of people who will use it. And it should be sized accordingly. The existing library, we may need to look at that to find out if it can be used for another usage, for another agency that could grow into it. I'm not sure what that agency would be. But I just think taking the existing library, which will have to close for 4 to 6 months while the renovation is going on, is going to be a disservice to the citizens. Mm-hmm. Now let's bounce over to the jail.
Yes.
The thing about the jail is we thought it was going to be too expensive, given what the state was going to chip in. But what we're finding now is by the time we spend the money to renovate the existing jail at its existing size, we're actually going to be spending close to the same money we would have spent building the new jail with the state's help. Now, I was fortunate when I was on the Board of Education to be involved in renovation of 7 schools. And what we found out with that renovation is we were working under Paris Glendenning's smart growth policy, which talked to taking an existing facility, existing land, and renovating it, modernizing it, increasing its capacity. But what you had is you had children who were in those schools while they were being renovated. It increased the cost dramatically. What also happened was it disrupted the learning process of the people in those schools, the teachers, the students. So what we found was it was an expensive way to do it, and also you lost some of what you gained in the teaching area. So what I'm saying is when you switch over to a jail, you have an inmate population that has to be housed somewhere else. They're not like children that can go home at the end of the day. And that cost is dramatic. I saw a study that talked to they were going to house inmates for maybe 3 months, but that's optimistic. It'll be longer than that in my opinion. So I would entertain building a new jail, let this jail stay like it is until the new jail is done. That way we don't have to incur those costs.
Okay, for people that would like to get involved in your campaign, do you have a Facebook page? Do you have a website? And
Yeah.
How would you like people to help you out if they're interested in doing so?
Oh, I need all the volunteers I can get. I need all the help I can get. It's electmikehewitt.com. It's Facebook, Mike Hewitt for Commissioner. And it's also Mike Hewitt on Facebook. So I need all the help I can get. I welcome anybody who would like to help. I've been fortunate that I've gotten a lot of support, and I've had a lot of people come forth and donate and help. I'm fortunate in that regard.
Okay, thank you for being with us today, and best of luck. Our guest has been Mike Hewitt, who's a Republican candidate for County Commissioner. I'm Dick Myers. Thank you for joining us on Countdown to November.